Alright, back with another replay for Total War Warhammer 3. This time I'm playing as the High Elves again, and I'm matched up against the Warriors of Chaos on Grove of Slaughter. And I noticed that this opponent of mine is from the RTK clan, and I'm not familiar with the individual himself, but I know that the clan is supposed to be pretty good. I see them compete in a lot of the tournaments that I watch on the Turn channel, and so I figure this is going to be an interesting matchup. Now, I came into this with a pretty elite build, so I've got Silver and Guard up front, Sisters of Avalorn sitting behind them, Swordmasters of Hoth behind them, and then a squad of Spearmen in the back just to screen off any kind of cavalry play. I know the Warriors of Chaos oftentimes will use the Horsemasters or the Marauder Horsemen and kind of get some rear charges off on vulnerable ranged units and whatnot, as well as getting their poke in with their missiles. Then I also brought Tyrion as well. And I brought Tyrion because I wanted to be able to deal with whichever lord they brought, and I figured Sigvald is pretty standard, so here he is, of course. So they've got Prince Sigvald, 3 squads of Marauder Horsemen. They've got Chaos Warriors with great weapons, Marauders. A lot of Chaos Warriors with great weapons. Looks like 5 squads of them, 2 or 3 of Marauders, and a Chaos Sorcerer of Shadows. So I'll fast forward this on the approach. Originally I was going to go for point 2. The way I kind of set up my build was to go for point 3 with my elite troops heavily armored, kind of sit out in this field, and then transition into point 2. Then I saw my opponent was not sending anything over in this direction, so I figured, you know what, I might as well get on top of that point. It's important for me to get some capture weight on there. So you can see my opponent using the Marauder Horsemen running around this backside. Very good speed on these guys, 90 speed. So he's already on my side of the map, basically my spawn at that point. He was over in this area. Just getting some poke in. Got Silver and Guard going up to post up on point 2. And just get some capture weight on there and hold my opponent back. I saw Prince Sigvald charging in, so I got Tyrion running in to counter. Swordmasters of Hoth going on the left side of this point. Another squad going on the right side. I figured I'd wrap around and get a flank on these Chaos Warriors. Then I got Sisters of Avalorn jumping into the woods. Got Spearmen lined up right here in case they try to run around with the cavalry. Other squad of Sisters of Avalorn I had been sitting behind them to shoot in case they came around this way. Then I realized that he was going to go for a rear charge or some kind of flanking action, so I'm reacting, going towards the middle. Just sitting one squad of Silver and Guard on victory point 3. Got the flanking charge with the Swordmasters of Hoth, and then the other squad of Sisters of Avalorn running over this way. Now, I ran them into the Swordmasters because I didn't want to get charged pretty brutally, so I figured if they were packed in, that would soak that up a little bit. But you're going to see why that's a mistake shortly. I do have Spearmen and my Loremaster countercharging to get around the backside of these Marauder Horsemen. Point 3 is now mine. Tyrion is going at Sigvald and is winning that duel. I think Sigvald might be targeting the Silver and Guard. I'm not sure if he's on them. But this is why that was a mistake for me to sit the Sisters of Avalorn on top of the Swordmasters. Because that Pit of Shades got him a ton of value. And I only killed a couple of the Horsemen at that point. Swordmasters of Hoth dealing away with the Chaos Warriors with great weapons. They took decent damage, but wiped that unit out. He's got his Caster of Shadow sitting in the back. I think he's got him on horseback. Yep. So he's got him on horseback, and that'll help him be maneuverable around the field. Sisters of Avalorn just shooting in at these horsemen riding around in the back. Silver and Guard still sitting on point 3, just trying to screen off the cavalry play. And Tyrion and the Swordmaster are dealing with Prince Sigvald pretty well. I actually was about to bring in a noble, but I brought in my Loremaster of Hoth instead. Once I saw Sigvald committing on the point, I figured I could get the little goon squad thing going. And the noble is now coming in reinforcement as well, but I brought the Loremaster first because he's got armor piercing and anti-infantry. I figured he could complement Tyrion well on taking care of their lord. Now we got Warlines of Krace coming in, running through the Sisters of Avalorn to try to fight off these Marauder Horsemen. Spearmen sitting there soaking up those missiles with their silver shields. Good armor on these guys as well. Sisters of Avalorn starting to get some shots in on these gentlemen. Warlines getting a good charge off on them. They're they're going to deal decent damage against these guys. You know, they're not getting their armor piercing benefit necessarily because of the low armor on the horsemen. They're also not getting their anti-infantry, but they are good damage dealers, especially with how low the melee defense is and the armor stat of these Marauder horsemen. So one squad getting chased off on that side, another squad chasing or retreating off towards their reinforcement area. And then my opponent came with a big reinforcement squad. So we just got 2 squads of Marauders with great weapons, 2 squads of Forsaken, and another squad of Marauders with great weapons. Pit of Shades coming down on Swordmasters of Hoeth. He's going to be targeting the elite infantry with that, rightfully so. Looks like he's got some Marauders sitting in the woods just watching point 1. That's a good play on him. Doesn't want me to see what he has over there. I actually didn't even notice that he had troops hiding in the woods. I wasn't sure what was going on over here. He just pulled all his troops over or what. Chaos Warriors coming around the flank. Got Tyrion, my Lore Master, and my War Lions coming in to deal with these guys. The War Lions are going to deal really well with these guys. Armor piercing anti-infantry on these guys, and although they do have armor piercing and they'll do decent damage to the War Lions, I think that's a decent trade, especially when they're being reinforced by Tyrion. You can see for Tyrion, I'm going to be constantly spamming Stand Ground and the Feint and Riposte ability. For my Lore Master, I brought Spirit Leech and Earthblood. So dropping Earthbloods while I'm vying for point 2, healing up the heroes, healing up the troops that are supporting them. My Sisters of Avalorn got caught out over here on the side. These Hellstriders of Slaanesh came in, and these guys are real quick, 100 speed, even faster than the Marauder Horsemen, and they just have a crushing charge. So Silver Guard coming in to support these War Lions of Krace, and the Sisters of Avalorn are getting chased off by this big cavalry mob that my opponent's got. Another squad of Sisters of Avalorn is going to get caught out. They were going to come and support about 1,000 behind the value trading, which is not horrible, especially because of the huge Pit of Shades that he got off earlier on the Swordmasters of Hoeth and the Sisters of Avalorn squad. Rangers coming in to support. I mentioned this earlier in the match. What I was doing was looking to get one squad of more armored troops and more elite troops to fight out in the open field to get point 3, and then I had some other troops that were going to be more ground holders and lightly armored stuff that was going to come in and vie for point 2. The Rangers were a part of that. I figured Rangers would be a good way to deal with Marauders and some of the more lightly armored Wars of Chaos stuff. You can see Prince Sigvald is at 15 health, and somehow he gets out of there. I was right-clicking on him like madness with my Lord and my 2 heroes, but he just barely got out. Pit of Shades coming down. It's going to deal with my Rangers and whatnot. Luckily, it didn't hit too well. Feral Manticore coming in. I'm going to end up targeting him with my Goon squad. Just repositioning these Silver Guard, trying to make sure that the shields are facing these cavalry as they're circling around. Got another squad of Phoenix Guard coming in. I believe I had one of these. Actually, maybe I didn't have one of these in the beginning, but good armor piercing. The anti-large isn't going to show out against the Marauders and the Forsaken, but the armor piercing surely will. There are Hellstriders in this mix as well, so the anti-large will help against them. And that was part of the reason I brought the Phoenix Guard at this point. They had a lot of Hellstriders, and they had the Marauder Horsemen as well out on the field. And the Phoenix Guard will just be able to kind of deal with some of the armored infantry and also repel the cavalry at the same time. Got the Pure Main Company, which is the Regiments of Renown White Lions of Krace coming in. They've got Sundered Armor, so they're going to be good dealing with the Chaos Armor. And my little squad of Lords is still in here just holding off. Got the Lore Master there, the Noble there, and Tyrion. And he's dealing with the Manticore. Of course, the Manticore is usually always going to be going after the Lord, trying to goon him out, unless you've got some kind of high value or you've got like one spellcaster that's in a vulnerable location. Usually people are going to be sending the Manticore after a vulnerable spellcaster or a Lord, and in this case it's Tyrion, because the Lore Master of Hoeth, although he's my only caster, doesn't have anything too crazy on him. Again, it's just Spirit Leech for the Lord and Earthblood for healing up this Goon squad. Another Pit of Shades coming down on the Phoenix Guard. I'm very curious how much this spell costs. I feel like it does a ridiculous amount of damage compared to any other spells that I see, but I'm going to assume just from the damage that it's mostly armor piercing. Yeah, it is 100% armor piercing, and it costs 13. That seems like it's not too much to me, but either way, about 2,000 behind the value trading at this point. and he's really pulling ahead on the victory points. He does have victory point 3. I kind of missed this, but he captured this with the horsemen, and I ended up chasing some of them off with my silver and guard. I think 2 squads of them got off the point. But now you can see he's got some more marauders coming in to reinforce. Hellstrider's still running around in the back, kind of wreaking havoc. I brought my, what do you call it, the White Lions to deal with these guys and prevent their charge from getting on top of the War Lions. I brought these War Lions in reinforcement and didn't want them to get jumped by these anti-large troops, especially since the War Lions do not have good armor. And luckily was able to screen them off with these White Lions. Now these guys are getting into the mix over here, dealing with the Feral Manticore and the Marauders. Hellstrider's going over, charging into these Silver and Guard, and they're not going to really do much. The Silver and Guard have very good charge defense. They also have, well, that's spell resistance. They have the charge reflection, right, which is pretty good against a cavalry unit like that. Swordmasters of Hoth coming in to support, but at this point I'm going to fast forward. You're going to see another Pit of Shades coming down. This is the only thing he was using. I'm not sure if he only brought that spell. And I'm going to fast forward through the rest because many of you can probably realize at this point I'm not making progress on point 2. He does have point 3 taken from me. I'm not able to threaten point 1 at this point, and this is just a foregone conclusion. So well played to my opponent. I felt like I did decently, especially since I was trying out a new build with a lot of elite troops against what seemed to me to be a pretty high level player. So let's take a look at the stats. So Tyrion did pretty well. Swordmasters didn't do great. This was a squad that got Pit of Shades dropped on them, so not too surprised there. Sisters of Avalon was a mistake. I probably could have been much better off bringing some kind of lower cost archer, say archers with light armor or just standard archers, because thinking about it after the fact, I was thinking that I wanted armor piercing missiles, but there's not going to be too many chances where the archers are just getting free shots off on infantry, especially when they're mixed in with my spearmen and my swordmasters or even white lions. So I probably should have brought lighter archers and maybe even no archers. Maybe try something without as much range power. Silver and Guard were just holding ground. They got decent value for what role they play. Spearmen didn't do too much. My Swordmaster did pretty good. Phoenix Guard didn't do great. Again, they were another victim of the Pit of Shade spell. These White Lions didn't get too much action. Noble didn't do great. You know, he was mostly in the mixed melee. I probably could have brought another Swordmaster or just not brought a third hero. But I wanted him in case there was any kind of big Flying Lord or something like that. White Lions did alright. Not great. Rangers did alright. The one squad that I brought in. For my opponent, Sigvald didn't do great. I did a good job of picking him off, but I didn't finish the job, and my opponent did a good job of getting him out of the fight when he was getting wrecked by my goon squad. Chaos Warriors with great weapons did alright. Chaos Sorcerer of Shadows did a ton of work, especially, he probably only cost like 1,000 something, like low 1,000s. I would guess 1,000, 1,200 with what he brought. Marauder Horsemen didn't do too much. These Marauders never got any action because they were sitting on point 1. Manticore got chewed up by the Hero Squad. Forsaken did pretty good. Hellstriders didn't do as much as I thought they would have, but they kept me distracted on the battlefield, so some unspoken value there. And nothing else too special going on. Just a quick note, and this guy definitely kicked my ass. You know, he definitely won, but I will say, from a balance perspective, I really think the Pit of Shade spell needs to be reworked, or the other spells within the Shadows lore needs to be reworked, because I've been watching this game since it came out, and people almost only bring that spell. And the fact that it's basically brought every single time, to me, shows a bit of a flaw. I really appreciate flexibility in games, and maybe the possibility or the feasibility of bringing different kinds of builds, whether it's the unit types that you're bringing, the spells that you're bringing, and whatnot. So from a balance perspective, I think having things a little more evened out can really make the game funner and leave room for more diverse strategies. So, you know, Pit of Shades, I feel like is a way overused spell, and I would have lost anyways. Even if he didn't bring that spell, this guy would have beat me anyways. But I'm curious what the state of balance changes is in this game and where it's going to go from here. I feel like the game's been out for like 2 or 3 years. Maybe I'm over exaggerating, but anyways, good play to my opponent. He definitely earned that and outplayed me. But that was a fun one, even though I lost by a pretty good amount on the victory points. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next one.